Please tell us more of your unoriginal, indeed manufactured opinions.
Well, I'd just like to say...
No, Harry. I do believe that question was aimed at me.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, it was. So please don't interrupt me.
All right. Stroppy old cow.
What did you just say to me?
I believe he called you a stroppy old cow.
Oh, thanks, Cobalt. You've got to admit, you do go on a little bit.
Go on?
Yeah, go on. About stuff. There's always something you're going on about.
I suppose my ears can't be working properly, Harry. What did you just say?
He said there's always something you're going on about, complaining and whinging and the like.
Yeah, that's right. I love the fact you're passionate about things. But, I never knew that you were this passionate about this many things.
Where is this all coming from?
Well, you're always shooting your mouth off about things. My family, underprivileged people, women's stuff and all that business, And sometimes your voice just grates and you think, oh, will you put a sock in it?
You're just talking nonsense.
He does have a point, Meghan.
Well, everyone thinks it. That's why I've got less popular ever since we got together. Your tireless complaining. It gets on people's nerves, Meghan. And they don't ever read about it in the paper. I've got to live with it. Can you imagine what it's like living with it?
Can you imagine what it's like living with him? I mean, first of all, I lower my standards of physical attractiveness to include you. Yeah, and I get hit with this barrage of constant questions. Oh, how do you turn the TV on? Why can't I get my socks on my feet? Why don't my family return my calls anymore? It's exhausting.
I bet. No, I'm sure you're both insufferable.
Nothing's ever good enough for you. You always find something. Like when we were getting married. Oh, St. George's Chapel's a bit too musty. Can we plug in some Glade Airwick fresheners, whatever they're called? I mean, it's a centuries-old chapel.
What Meghan wants, Meghan gets, Harry.
Well, quite.
Yeah, well, you're a brain-dead beta male.
Yeah, but you told me you wanted me to be sensitive and modern and all that woke stuff.
Yeah, I know I did, but I never said I'd continue to respect you. Who would? Like, obeying your wife and then, becoming somebody unrecognizable in, 2 years of courtship?
Avocados taste horrible, yoga is boring, and all vegans have that sort of yellow colour to their skin.
Yeah, well, you're a balding, red-headed wimp who does as he's told and will continue to do as he's told until our inevitable day of liberation.
Right, now, come on. This is getting out of hand.
Are you just going to take that, Harry?
Yeah, well, he'll take what he's told and there'll be no arguments about it.
You were nothing but a deal or no deal strumpet when I met you.
Yeah, well, I was a prime-time actress when...
Who no one's ever watched Suits, Meghan. And the ones who did found it boring. The only scene they've ever watched is the one where you're having stand-up relations against a filing cabinet.
I think it's time you seriously consider what you're saying and whether you want to deal with the consequences or not.
Yeah? Well, what are you going to do? Because I'm sick of it, Meghan. You're a talentless hack.
Well, I'll be telling Kevin about this when we get back.
Kevin?
Yeah, spelt with a C.
Oh, of course.
No. Don't tell Kevin. Don't tell Kevin.
Yeah, well, I'm getting him on the phone now. Kevin? Yeah, it's Harry. I can't even begin to tell you what he's been doing and what he's been saying. Yeah, all right.
Kevin? Yeah, but I can explain. No, but Kevin, I can explain. No, I haven't had any red meat recently. Yeah, okay, Kevin. Yeah, but I was just thinking that... Yeah, I know what you said about thinking. Okay. All right. Yes, I understand.
And?
My screen time's been halved for a fortnight, and no chicken or fish for a month.
Yeah, well, it's good. Like Bumble said in Oliver Twist, meat and protein generally isn't good because it promotes independent thought and, willful behavior.
I'm an experimentalist. I always have been.
Well, your experimental nature might have landed you with more experimenting than you bargained for. Experimenting as you are with losing your US visa because of the drug-taking admissions that you included in your book, Spare.
Yeah, and I told him he must have been off his head, to include that.
Might literally have been so.
You never said not to include it. You said be yourself, Harry. Talk about what's important to you.
Yeah, right, but accept things that might mean that your US visa is revoked, I never thought I needed to mention that, That seemed pretty obvious.
Nothing's obvious when I'm involved, Meghan.
You have court cases aplenty coming up at the moment, Harry, and with your relationship with Meghan seemingly heading south, this must be a pretty intense period of your life.
Hence, I need my drugs. I never forget my first ayahuasca experience. I met Len, who represented the little green men.
Excuse me?
Oh my God.
I've never spoken in public about this, but I met a chap called Len, who represents the little green men.
Oh, I really wish you hadn't done this.
Oh, he's as real as you or me, and whenever I take ayahuasca, he visits me. Yeah, he's funny, he's enlightened, and he has some undeniable pearls of wisdom.
I'm not convinced that this line of discussion will aid your defence, Harry.
No, and that's what he said, He said, don't bring this stuff up in an interview. You'll look stupid, And he was right. But I didn't listen to him. In fact, that's my main fault, actually. I don't often enough listen to Len.
Who represents the little green men.
That's him. But people who haven't taken ayahuasca, they put it down. They mock it. They say that it just makes you talk and speak a load of nonsense, But Len said that's because they're just stuck in a four-dimensional reality.
Right, so Len, from the Little Green Men, told you that those who couldn't see him just weren't as enlightened as you are?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but Harry, remember, I believe this stuff. I know you can go places. I've been places too. I once did goat yoga after an avocado salad on Mount Mara. I've seen things. You can go places. But even to me, what you're saying just sounds like, ridiculous.
Maybe you're right, Meghan. Maybe you're right. I didn't even listen to him about not bringing him up in conversation. Yeah, and although he was right on this occasion, what does that show you? It shows you that I just don't really trust Len. I just don't trust him.
Oh, but you seem so close.
Well, he's been wrong before, and that always dents your confidence. I mean, he once said that Meghan was the biggest mistake I'd ever made and that I should run for my life. But, so it just shows you really, isn't it? I suppose my critics are correct. This ayahuasca stuff does make you talk a load of nonsense.
I'm going to be looking to take the Archetypes podcast onto another platform. I really think there's a lot of mileage left in this concept I've invented. And I'm really excited to see about how much further we can go with it.
Yes, even though it's about stereotypes and not archetypes.
Look, we just want to build on the success we've already had, at Spotify, and then diversify our outreach platforms and bolster our DEI credentials.
I've got no idea what that means, of course, Harry. I'm not even sure it makes sense within the paradigm of modern nonsense. Perhaps you should employ Melissa Heineshield as your marketing director.
Well, yeah, she is still on leave from Bud Light, so yeah, it's possible.
I'm getting on the phone now. Oh, Elisa, hi, yeah, it's H. Harry, Prince Harry, of Great Britain, sort of. The ginger one. Yeah, I knew you'd remember me. Yeah, well, we were just thinking we'd like to employ you to be the marketing manager of Meghan's podcast. You'd have a super clear mandate. Right? Yep. Yep, gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. I think it's a bit harsh, but okay, yeah, I understand. Fine. I think there's any need for that kind of language. Okay. Okay, bye. She'll think about it.
Oh, she'll think about it, will she? She'll think about it, will she? Call her straight back and say, we're not interested anymore. Offer's gone.
Oh, no need. I was lying before. She's not even slightly interested.
Oh, despite the bluster about taking archetypes to a different platform, the truth is, of course, that you've been dropped by Spotify for producing subpar content.
Well, I thought every episode was a groundbreaking wonder.
Yes, Harry, but you have a subpar and easily manipulated mind.
That's true.
We also learned, Meghan, that you left a handwritten note for Taylor Swift asking her to appear on your podcast, but she refused, or rather, she refused through a representative of hers.
Yeah, I was quite shocked because I always thought that, a powerful, independent woman like Taylor would, love to come on and share her story, share her truth.
Not necessarily the truth.
Yeah, but she obviously thinks that she's too big for the little people now. Now she's acquired a certain level of fame.
That's the difference between her and my Meghan. Because my Meghan never forgets the little people. Even though she does like to keep them, at a distance.
Unless the cameras are rolling.
Yeah, unless the cameras are rolling, of course.
Indeed. But does the Taylor Swift snub indicate that you're out of your depth and don't have any pulling power when it comes to attracting, major celebrities?
I had Serena.
Yes, but she was your friend.
Well, I had Mariah Carey.
Who called you a diva.
I did release 12 episodes.
And apart from those two, I hadn't really heard of any of the other guests.
No, neither had I.
It does seem that Spotify are underwhelmed with your output, which comes as a great surprise to us all.
I still don't think the world is just ready. I still don't think the world is ready for strong women. And strong women were at the heart of archetypes.
Stereotypes.
It's like a glass ceiling that we're still unable to break through, right?
Yes. Or could it be that the content that you think up in your evidently average and woke ravished mind is utterly awful? A analysis that could be supported by the fact that the other media giant who threw money at you, Netflix, are also disappointed with your productions.
Sorry. Didn't we have the biggest, or one of the biggest ever documentary successes on Netflix?
Yes, but only the one about your life story, which was watched in many cases through latticed fingers, such was the cringe factor. And by those who often found themselves stuck in a sick fascination with the horror show, the ludicrous horror show that was playing out on the world stage, to such an extent that they just had to watch.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Means a lot.
For instance, with your podcast show, Spotify were under the impression that you'd be involved too, Harry.
Yeah, the problem was I couldn't find any way that I'd be useful.
Shocker.
And besides, I didn't want to take any of the spotlight away from Meghan, my Meghan, my amazing wife.
Yeah, he didn't add anything.
Yes, and I suppose two people not adding anything is just too much. But let's return back to your Netflix scenario. We hear that you've pitched many an idea to the producers, but they've been immediately shot down.
Yeah, I think the term they used was wouldn't really bring any value to the station.
I'm thinking specifically about your proposed documentary on misinformation, Harry.
I was. It's a very serious problem, like a disease.
A pandemic, you could even say.
Ooh.
And what exactly was this documentary going to discuss?
How dangerous and proliferate misinformation is.
Yeah, I love profiteroles.
Well, it's about where it starts, where misinformation begins, and where it begins, and more importantly, how it spreads. How does it gain traction? And, one of the key findings we had, actually, was that we found out that allowing misinformation to spread, actively encourages, racism and sexism to flourish.
Yeah, well, all coming together now, isn't it? All the pieces of the puzzle. A plan that's been hatched just to hurt women and minorities.
Absolutely. It's a rigged game.
Wouldn't that conclusion make you both conspiracy theorists?
Sorry, what was the question?
So we were going to do this documentary about misinformation, and
Yeah, no, but I was going to be the front man on this one, running stuff, Wasn't I, Meghan?
yeah, sure. This was going to be Harry's thing.
Okay, Harry, what exactly is misinformation?
It's lies, Cobalt, that are spread as though they're truth.
That's a long way of just saying lie.
It's the scourge of inaccurate and misleading information that's purposefully designed to dupe its audience.
Yeah, bunch of dummies.
Yes, but who deems it misinformation?
Certified sources, certified.
Certified by who?
Well, officials. I don't know. How about just not nutters, okay?
Yeah, officials, government-appointed officials.
Do you see a potential problem with getting all of our information from certified government sources?
Yeah. Trusted institutions, and businesses too. Think tanks.
Well, of course, none of those would benefit by being deemed the arbiter of what is correct and what is false in this world. Why not just put out the information and let us decide whether it's informed or misinformed or not?
No, because the people can't be trusted to differentiate, right?
No. They need someone like me to point it out.
And how's production going on this documentary?
Well, didn't even make it off the drawing room floor.
Shocker.
Yeah, so I said, if I'm going to do an interview podcast series, bring me Vladimir Putin, bring me Donald Trump, bring me Mark Zuckerberg, even the Pope. Bring me the Pope.
And how did the executives react to this?
Oh, they just stared at me like I was bonkers. Two of them actually started scratching their heads. They just looked at me, absolutely silent.
No, they weren't silent. At least two of them started giggling.
Oh, yeah, Jay and Theo. I assumed that they just found the idea of me debasing myself, by talking to the likes of Trump and Putin as, so ridiculous they just had to laugh.
Yes, I'm sure that was it.
But I thought it was worth it, I was going to ask some really probing questions, to try and find out what happened to these men in their former years, in their formative years, to work out how they became the men that they are today.
Yeah, it might have been interesting, to find out, what these two nutcases went through in life, so we can find out what happened to make them, become these kind of men. And that would help us to be able to educate, and program future people to make sure that, no one goes down this route.
Like good, obedient subjects.
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Putin, did you have a lack of love growing up, and that's why you're such a meanie in the present time?
Top-notch probing.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm tactful too, so I'd say things in such a way to try and see if I can get him to break down, Vladimir. Try and get him to break down and actually cry. Yeah, break down crying. But I wouldn't put my arm around him or anything, no.
No, because that would be silly.
Yeah, and once I'd hit that nerve, once I got him weak and at the mercy of my, undeniable charisma, then that's when I'd ask him to apologize for all the nastiness that he's caused in Ukraine.
Those poor people in Kyiv.
Oh yeah, I love chicken Kievs. But yeah, that would be my tactic, hit a nerve, get him emotional, get him connected to his inner woman,
That's not only sexist, Harry. That's also trans denialism.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, yeah. I mean, get him connected to his inner trans man?
Yeah, I think that's more suitable. You really should be working on using inclusive language, Harry.
Well, I do try, Meghan, but, it's all gobbledygook at times. But anyway, yeah, I would try and get him, connected inside with his inner trans man. And it's funny, because inside his inner trans man, there's an inner trans woman inside that.
Right, so inside Putin, he has an inner trans man, and inside his inner trans man, he has an inner trans woman.
Yeah, well, he's like a Russian doll.
Yeah, so I keep up with the emotional, hard-hitting questions until the tears start welling in his eyes. Did your mother not love you? Did your father strike you? What's it like being short and bald? Who is your favourite Marvel superhero? That kind of thing.
Important stuff.
And then I get him to apologise to Ukrainian people, and to the people all around the world, for just being so naughty, And then at the end, if the budget was big enough and we could get it done, I'd bring out Zelensky and we could end the show with a big hug. Eh? What about that? Geopolitical crisis solved, lives saved. The power of a traumatic childhood experiences and the damage they can do exposed in real time. And then I look like a genius of psychographical analysis. Win, win, win.
And when you told the executives this plan you had to end the war, feminize Putin, and elevate your stock as a mental health expert, they
just thought I was bonkers. Yeah, we might have had a few of our ideas, shot down because they were, fundamentally
ludicrous.
Yeah. But I really think we're onto a winner with this one, You might even say that we're expecting great things.
Smooth. Yeah, we were looking to do a mini series, which would act as a prequel to the classic Dickens novel, Great Expectations.
A classic.
You've read it, Harry?
Well, actually, no.
Yeah, anyway, it's going to be tactically infused with modern enlightenments as to the contributing factors of her psychological discombobulation, and with that, how it's connected to the male systemic overlordship and aggressive moral standards and moralizations of...
Sorry, what on earth are you on about?
I was going to tell the story about how Miss Havisham became such a batty old bird.
It's going to be like a sensitive insight into how Miss Havisham struggled, in a patriarchal society, and why.
Yeah, and why she had to go to bed for the rest of her life. And spoiler alert, it wasn't because she was tired.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. Yeah, I think it's a great idea because, first of all, it helps to resurrect an old classic.
I told ya, classic.
But it also highlights the contemporary issue of today and the oppressive attitudes towards women in society, of which I'm a perfect example.
Well, if the perfect example of an oppressed woman is one who lives in a $14 million mansion with staff, security, and ample options, unearned, by the way, to produce poor quality content, yet still be remunerated splendidly for it, then shouldn't we be celebrating society as one of the most progressive and emancipated possible?
Well, not for the first time, Cobalt. I think you might have actually missed the point there. And as you can probably guess, I don't know how or why exactly. So I'm going to pass you back over to Meghan. Meghan?
I've had to work seriously hard to get where I am today, right? Twice as hard as any man would have to work. Do you have any idea of the things I've had to do to get to where I am today? I should be much more powerful than I am, much richer than I am. I should be much more influential than I am, if things were balanced and fair.
Cooped up in a $14 million mansion. It breaks my heart.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I quite freely admit that I'm unpracticed at thinking like a narcissistic idiot.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I think there's a gap in the market for this, unique concept, right, that I've come up with. And it does two great things. It highlights pressing issues of the day, right? And it also breathes fresh life into Dickens, the definition of pale, male, and stale.
Yeah, good old Harry.
Harry?
Harry Dickens.
No, it's Charles Dickens.
Oh, yeah. Must have been his brother.
Are you not at all concerned by the fact that this unique idea has already been done more than once, although perhaps not with the same level of flagrant propaganda?
When?
2012, a novel called Havisham by Ronald Frame, and 2015, a TV series called Dickensian.
Oh,
Right. Well, we've got other ideas, like a feature-length movie about the sinking of the Titanic.
yeah, and with a subplot about a romance between two passengers who are on the opposing ends of the socio-economic spectrum.
Yeah, pitch that to them. Yes, pitch that. Right, so your main interest in speaking to Zuckerberg would be to acquire his support in pushing positive stories and opinions about Meghan.
Yeah, and me.
It's all part of a long-term strategy, right? To coordinate separate elements into a synergy of progressiveness that can clear a path towards what can only be described, right, as the promised land.
Yeah, promised land.
That was the video, and if you'd be kind enough to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, it would be much appreciated.